Welcome back, everyone, to Sip&Talk.
Great to be here.
Hey, have you seen this latest thing bubbling up in the U.S. Congress? This Taiwan Symbols of Sovereignty Act, the SOS Act.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, the SOS Act. Sounds a bit like a distress signal, doesn't it? But no, it's pretty significant.
Right. It sounds like basically the U.S. is saying, okay, fine, we're going to formally let Taiwanese officials, fly their flag, wear their uniforms, use their emblems here in the U.S.
Exactly. It's a big deal because for decades, since 1979, the U.S. has kind of tiptoed around this self-censorship, basically, to avoid ticking off Beijing.
Yeah, like Taiwanese officials couldn't display the ROC flag, the Republic of China 1, at official events on U.S. soil or wear their proper uniforms.
So this law, pushed by guys like Todd Young, Ted Cruz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's a complete U-turn. It says, nope, display the flag, wear the uniform, use the emblems. Publicly.
Wow. So that's got to be making waves in Beijing, right? I mean, the timing, does they just manage to get everyone to kind of move past the whole Nancy Pelosi visit thing?
Oh, absolutely. How that was intense. Remember all the talk back then? Planes getting shot down, the PLA wouldn't sit idly by, high drama. And now this, it's like poking that same sensitive spot again.
The Pelosi visit. Yeah, we should probably circle back to that in a sec, remind everyone what went down. But it gets you thinking, right? The U.S. poking China is one thing. We see that. But what if?
Yeah.
What if the pressure came from inside? Like, what if the CCP itself, for whatever reason, maybe the economy tanks or international pressure just gets too much or they just need to survive politically?
Okay.
What if they were the ones to say, you know what? This whole unifying Taiwan thing, we're putting that on the shelf officially after decades of saying it's inevitable.
Whoa. Okay. That's the big thought experiment then. If that foundational narrative, that historical mission just collapses, what happens to all the people who bought into it hook, line, and sinker? The super nationalists?
Exactly. The ones online fighting the good fight, the little pinks, right? What happens to their whole worldview if the party suddenly says, just kidding? Or, well, not just kidding, but plans have changed.
Imagine a press conference. The leader steps up and just announces, we are no longer pursuing the unification of Taiwan as a core objective.
I feel like half the country would just freeze, mouths open, and the other half would immediately start looking for the hidden camera or blame, foreign interference, CIA plots.
Probably. But it's more than just politics, isn't it? It's deep psychology. If a state spends decades telling you, this is ours, this is the enemy, this is the sacred mission, and then just goes, never mind. The whole national belief system, it's like, sound effect, the string gets cut.
So kicking off from this SOS Act news, we're going to really dig into that today on Sip and Talk. It's not just law, it's like a live test of belief and identity. What happens when the central pillar crumbles? Where does all that energy, that fervor, actually go?
Okay, so let's use that Pelosi visit in August 2022 as our real-world test case. It's a pretty good glimpse into what happens when the party's big talk meets, well, reality.
Right, the precedent. Because the interesting thing wasn't just that Pelosi went, it was how Beijing reacted before she even landed.
Exactly. It was a masterclass in, let's call it, maximum incitement. The buildup was insane.
Maximum incitement sounds serious. So like state media, government spokespeople.
Everyone. State media, the foreign ministry, those really influential online commentators, the key opinion leaders, the KOLs, like Hu Xijin, the former Global Times editor. Super bombastic guy.
Yeah, I remember him. He was saying some pretty wild stuff.
Totally wild. The official line was already dialed up. The PLA will never sit idly by. The U.S. will bear all consequences, that kind of thing. But Hu Xijin took it further. He was publicly speculating or suggesting that the PLA could, intercept Pelosi's plane, even shoot it down if U.S. fighter jets were escorting it.
Seriously, shoot it down. That's extreme.
Extremely extreme. And the message got through. All this rhetoric convinced huge numbers of nationalists, especially the younger little pinks online, that this was it, the moment of truth. Time to take Taiwan back, or at least deliver a massive military blow.
So the emotional investment was sky high. They really believed the party line, that action was coming.
Absolutely. They were glued to flight trackers, waiting for the fireworks, and then reality hit.
The plane just landed safely in Taipei. No PLA jets scrambling to stop it. No missiles flying.
It's zip.
And then
maximum volume, minimum action. And boom, you suddenly have this huge, painful gap between the narrative and what actually happened.
So it was the immediate fallout online, I guess.
Yeah, it was fascinating, but also contained, which is maybe the real lesson here. Initially, there was this wave of massive disappointment. People felt like they'd lost face, big time. The Chinese internet briefly lit up with self-mockery. People started calling themselves paper tigers. There were sarcastic comments about the military being too busy or whatever. Anger directed at Hu Xijin and others for all the big talk.
So they were actually mocking themselves and their own government. Briefly.
Briefly, yes. And some frustration spilled over offline, too. Small-scale stuff, like people in Xiamen, right across the strait, reportedly smashing things in public, venting. But it wasn't just anger at the U.S., it was anger at the feeling of being weak, of being all talk.
The system promised fireworks and delivered a diplomatic visit.
Yeah.
That nationalist energy had nowhere to go.
Exactly. But here's where the party machine kicks in. They didn't let that anger fester or turn inwards for long.
They managed it.
Oh, brilliantly. They recycled and reshaped it almost instantly. They used what you could call post-event compensation.
Meaning, change the subject.
Pretty much shifted the goalposts, yeah. Immediately after Pelosi left, they launched those enormous military drills, unprecedented scale, effectively blockading Taiwan for days.
Ah, right, the drills. I remember those.
And that wasn't just flexing muscles. It was a narrative pivot, critically important. It instantly changed the conversation from, why didn't we stop her? To, look at our overwhelming military power. We've established a new normal around Taiwan.
So they turned a PR failure not stopping the visit into a claimed strategic success, showing they could blockade Taiwan whenever they wanted. Clever.
Very. And crucially, this served as a kind of reality education for the little pinks. It sent a clear message. Your passion is great, we love it, but it follows our lead. Your job is to cheer when we tell you to cheer and be patient when we tell you to be patient.
So the lesson was, loyalty to the party's strategy and timing trumps even the goal itself. Submit to the plan.
That's the core takeaway, that absolute obedience, even when reality doesn't match the hype, is paramount. And that mechanism, that ability to accept the party's reframing, is exactly why the idea of them abandoning the goal altogether isn't as simple as just mass revolt.
Okay, so that Pelosi episode gives us a real-world example of how the party manages nationalist expectations, even disappointment. Now let's apply that to our big what if. The party itself abandons the Taiwan goal. We need to get into the psychology here.
Right. This brings us squarely into the realm of cognitive dissonance. It's a classic concept in social psychology, Leon Festinger's idea.
Okay, refresh my memory. Cognitive dissonance is?
It's that really uncomfortable feeling you get in your head when you hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. Or when your actions don't match your beliefs. Your brain basically screams, error does not compute. And you feel this pressure to resolve the conflict somehow.
Make the uncomfortable feeling go away.
Exactly. You either change one of the beliefs, change your behavior, or you find some way to rationalize or minimize the conflict.
So how does that apply to the little pinks if the party ditches the Taiwan goal?
Well, think about their core political identity. It's built on two massive, absolutely fundamental pillars, like the load-bearing walls of their belief system.
Okay, pillar one.
Pillar one, the goal. Unifying Taiwan isn't just policy. It's a sacred historical mission. It's destiny. It's the key to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. It gives their online activism purpose.
Got it. Bedrock belief. And pillar two.
Pillar two, the authority. The Chinese Communist Party is always right. It's infallible. It's the only entity capable of leading China to that great rejuvenation. Questioning the party is unthinkable, maybe even dangerous.
So goal is sacred. Party is infallible. They depend on each other.
Completely. Now imagine the party suddenly announces, we're abandoning pillar one. The goal is off the table.
Uh-oh. Cognitive dissonance alarm bells going off like crazy.
Off the charts. Because it directly attacks what some academics call their instrumental patriotism.
Instrumental patriotism, meaning patriotism used as a tool.
Yeah, basically. It's nationalism that the state actively encourages and directs towards specific goals. The party tells them, fighting online trolls, defending China's image, demanding unification, that's how you contribute. That's how you're a good patriot. Their sense of meaning is tied to being useful to the party's stated mission.
So their online shouting matches feel like real contributions to this grand historical project.
Right. But if the party cancels the project, the contradiction is brutal. The goal is gone, clashes head-on with, the party is always right. How can the always right party abandon the sacred goal?
That forces a horrible question on them, doesn't it?
Duh.
Did I just waste years of my life arguing with strangers online for nothing? Was my passion meaningless?
Exactly. It's an identity crisis. The very foundation of their political self is threatened. It's like finding out the company you dedicated your life to, defended fiercely, just declared its core product obsolete overnight.
It's the ultimate psychological sunk cost, all that emotional energy poured into defending the indefensible, maybe, or at least the now abandoned.
And they have to resolve that dissonance. They can't live with that contradiction burning in their minds. So they face a fork in the road. Either the party was wrong all along, Pillar 2 collapses, or they need to find a way to accept the party's decision about the goal. Pillar 1 gets redefined or rationalized away.
Which leads us to the two likely paths they might take.
Okay, let's talk Path A. This is the one that, based on how these systems work, seems overwhelmingly likely. We're talking maybe, 70–85% of these individuals falling into this category, the loyal pawn.
A loyal pawn doesn't sound very flattering.
Well, it reflects the outcome. Essentially, they choose the path of least resistance, both politically and psychologically. They prioritize keeping Pillar 2 intact, the belief in the party's absolute correctness, over holding on to Pillar 1, the specific goal of unification.
Why? Just because it's easier? Or safer?
Both. Challenging the party openly in that kind of system, well, it has serious consequences. Socially, professionally, maybe legally. It's risky. Protecting your belief in the party's authority is fundamentally about protecting yourself, your place in the system. It's the safer bet.
So even after years of fiery passion about Taiwan, they just pivot, perform some mental gymnastics to make it okay.
Pretty much, yeah. And the party will absolutely provide the script for those gymnastics. The key mechanism here is rationalization, instantly.
How does that work? What do they tell themselves?
The party's decision gets reframed. It wasn't a failure or a retreat. It was actually a brilliantly sophisticated long-term strategy. Or maybe a necessary tactical adjustment to focus on the real battle, like the economy or technology. Or even a noble sacrifice the leadership made to spare the people from a devastating war.
Ah, so it elevates the leadership, makes them seem more wise, not less. We common folk just can't grasp their complex plans.
Precisely. It resolves the dissonance by saying, the party isn't wrong, they just see things I don't. My understanding was too simple. It protects their ego and their belief in the system.
Okay, let's use that analogy you had earlier, the Olympic athlete one. Flesh that out.
Right. So imagine you've dedicated your entire life to being the world's best 100-meter sprinter. You train, you sacrifice, you believe winning that gold is the ultimate patriotic act for your nation.
All in. Total commitment.
Then, the day before the Olympics, the head coach, the ultimate, unquestionable authority, pulls you aside and says, look, plans have changed. National glory actually requires us to win the 10,000-meter marathon now. All that sprint training, that was just essential prep for the endurance you'll need.
What do? You can't just quit the team. That's your whole identity. You can't argue with the coach. They define reality.
Exactly. So you rationalize. You tell yourself, you know what? Sprinting was always a bit shallow anyway. Endurance, that's the true test of national character. The coach is a genius. You find a way to make the shift make sense, to justify the lost effort.
Okay, that makes sense. You protect the authority figure and your place on the team.
And once you've done that mental jujitsu, you're ready for the next step. Mechanism 2. Emotional diversion and the new enemy. That pent-up nationalist energy, that trained aggression, it needs an outlet.
It can't just disappear.
Nope. The state needs to channel it. So the party says, okay, team, the goal isn't Taiwan anymore. The new goal is beating the West in AI or achieving total semiconductor independence.
They provide a new target. Something safe, productive from the party's perspective.
Exactly. The energy gets funneled away from the messy, potentially dangerous issue of territory and towards something like tech self-reliance. Or maybe it's channeled into more intense hatred for a designated external enemy, Western tech hegemony, foreign interference in our economy, whatever serves the current narrative.
So the state basically recycles the Taiwan fighter into a chip fighter or an economic warrior. Same intensity, different target.
And the result. You get what we might call an ideological hard landing. The party successfully hammers home the real lesson. Your obedience is more important than any single goal. You become a loyal executor of the new narrative.
A wary conformist, you called it. Loyal, but maybe a little bruised. Aware that the rules can change instantly.
Wary is a good word. They conform, but they've learned that their passion is ultimately conditional, a tool the party wields. But hang on, you might ask, what about the big guns, the military, the PLA? Surely they wouldn't just roll over if the Taiwan mission was canceled, their whole reason for being. Huge budgets.
Yeah, good point. Wouldn't there be resistance from powerful interests who've built careers on that conflict?
That's a key question, and it actually reinforces why Path A is the most probable. The PLA, remember, is the party's army. Its ultimate loyalty is constitutionally, structurally, to the CCP leadership.
Not to the mission itself.
To the party first. If the civilian party leadership makes a strategic decision to abandon the goal, the military brass can't openly revolt without basically staging a coup or committing career suicide. They'd be instantly branded as threats to stability, political enemies.
So they'd rationalize too, find a military justification.
Absolutely. They'd talk about strategic patience, waiting for a more opportune moment, focusing on building overwhelming technological superiority first. And crucially, the party would immediately redirect them and their budgets towards new high-prestige projects, maybe building more aircraft carriers, developing hypersonic missiles, expanding cyber warfare capabilities, all framed under the new banner of defending national sovereignty or protecting economic lifelines instead of unification. The structure itself compels conformity, even at the top.
Okay, so Path A is the likely road for most. Obedience, rationalization, redirection. But what about the ones who can't make that mental leap? That brings us to Path B, the backlash, the disillusioned force.
Right. This is the scenario the regime worries about most, even if it's statistically less likely, maybe in that 5 to 20% range. These are the true believers, the ones for whom unification wasn't just policy, it was faith.
And for them, the party abandoning the goal isn't strategy, it's
betrayal. Utter, absolute betrayal. Their cognitive dissonance doesn't resolve through rationalization. It resolves through shattering Pillar 2, the belief in the party's infallibility.
So love turns to hate.
Exactly. They conclude the party they worshipped has been corrupted, taken over by traitors, capitulationists, maybe people who sold out the dream for economic deals. They now see themselves as the real patriots, holding on to the sacred mission that the leadership abandoned.
And they'd want a return to the old goal. Force the party's hand.
They demand it. They become these sort of unofficial extreme nationalists, but now they're against the current regime for being too soft, for betraying the cause.
That sounds potentially destabilizing. Couldn't they form some kind of opposition movement, maybe rally others who feel betrayed?
That's the fear. But in reality, this path almost inevitably fizzles out. It fails to gain real traction against the state for a few key reasons baked into the system.
Okay, like what?
First, organization. Or rather, the lack of it. These movements tend to be internet-based, scattered, maybe flaring up in online forums or social media. They're like flash mobs, not organized political forces. They don't have a coherent alternative ideology, no recognized leaders, no real structure to challenge the party's monopoly on power.
So easy to disrupt, just shut down the websites or censor the posts.
That's part of it, but it's more than just censorship. It leads to the second and probably most important reason, swift suppression. The party holds the absolute power to define who is a patriot and who is an enemy.
They control the labels.
Completely. The moment this disillusioned group tries to organize or even just vocally criticizes the leadership's decision on Taiwan, they get slapped with labels like extremist, ultra-rightist, or the killer, threat to social stability.
So the party uses the very language of patriotism against them, defines them as the opposite of patriots for questioning the party line.
Exactly. And the crackdown is usually swift and targeted. It sends a chilling message to everyone else, including the 80% on Path A. See, even if you're disappointed, stepping out of line gets you crushed. We define patriotism, not you. The line is clear, and the punishment for crossing it is severe.
Okay, so no organization, swift suppression.
Yeah.
What's the third reason it fails?
The third is more psychological, political withdrawal. A lot of people in this small, disillusioned group, faced with the overwhelming power of the state, the lack of any viable path to change things, and the immense personal risk involved, they just give up.
Burnout, apathy.
Yeah, a kind of deep apathy sets in. They might become part of that lying flat phenomenon we hear about, basically checking out of the system, deciding that investing emotionally in state-dictated goals is just too painful when those goals can vanish overnight.
So they realize their ideological bet didn't pay off, and they just fold, stop engaging politically altogether.
Pretty much. They retreat into their private lives. So whether they end up as the rationalizing, loyal pawns on Path A or the silenced, withdrawn, disillusioned on Path B, the end result is the same. No organized, effective opposition emerges. The regime maintains control. So let's talk about how the CCP itself would likely handle this. They wouldn't just announce it and hope for the best. There'd be a whole crisis management protocol.
Right, a playbook for managing such a massive ideological U-turn. What would that look like? It's got to be more than just damage control.
Oh, definitely. It's about fundamentally reshaping the national narrative while maintaining absolute control. The core strategy would be something like strategic contraction and narrative reshaping.
Strategic contraction, meaning admitting they're scaling back ambitions.
Not admitting failure, that's key, but strategically repositioning. They have to frame the retreat as something else entirely, as leadership, not reaction.
How on earth do you spin giving up on Taiwan, the sacred mission, as anything but a failure or retreat?
By declaring phased victories, you never ever admit you lost or gave up. Instead, you claim the decision to abandon the immediate pursuit of unification was forced by unprecedented, extreme external factors. Maybe blame a hostile international environment, a U.S.-led conspiracy, the unbearable potential cost of war, or an economic crisis deliberately engineered by foreign powers.
So it wasn't our fault, it was their fault. We were forced into this.
Exactly. And then comes the crucial twist. Frame it as a great and difficult sacrifice made personally by the top leader. Not a failure of the party, but a painful choice the leader made for the good of the people.
Ah, the sacrificial leader narrative. I absorbed the pain of letting go of this dream so that you, the people, wouldn't have to suffer through a devastating war or economic collapse.
Bingo. It flips the script. It tries to turn potential anger into gratitude. Thank you, leader, for protecting us from that terrible outcome, even though it meant giving up the goal for now.
Clever, if cynical.
What else? Simultaneously, they have to institutionalize the shift in legitimacy. This is crucial. They actively, officially move the primary justification for their rule away from territorial unification, which proved too volatile and dependent on external factors, and towards things they can control better internally.
Like what? The economy.
Primarily, yes. Economic achievement, raising living standards, technological superiority, becoming a leader in AI or green energy. And always underpinning everything, maintaining social stability. These become the new benchmarks of the party's success.
Objectives they can manage, measure, and declare victory on more easily than conquering an island defended by the U.S.
Precisely. It's a more stable foundation for legitimacy long term. And this narrative shift relies heavily on a powerful psychological mechanism we touched on earlier, collective forgetfulness. Maybe even traumatic amnesia.
Like what we saw after the zero COVID lockdowns ended.
That's a perfect recent example. Remember how intense that was? The daily testing, the sudden lockdowns, the economic disruption, the personal suffering. It dominated everyone's life.
Yeah, it was all-consuming.
And then almost overnight, it just stopped. The policy vanished. And remarkably quickly, public discussion of the trauma, the anger, the absurdity of it all just faded. It became almost taboo to dwell on it. People just wanted to move on.
Like a collective agreement to just not talk about it anymore.
That's the traumatic amnesia. Faced with the psychological pain of acknowledging that all that suffering, or in our Taiwan hypothetical, all that fervent nationalism and online fighting might have been pointless or based on a shifting premise, the collective mind often chooses to simply forget. It's a defense mechanism. It's easier to maintain the current social contract.
What's the social contract in this context?
It's essentially obedience in exchange for security and order. People implicitly agree, okay, I won't dwell on the uncomfortable past, I won't question the sudden shifts in policy, as long as the party keeps things stable now and gives me a path forward.
So they trade the right to question the past for present stability and a new narrative.
That's the transaction, and the party facilitates this forgetting by flooding the zone. They blast the new narrative, relentlessly economic goals, tech competition, the new external enemy, making it the only acceptable public discourse. This isolates anyone still stuck on the old goal. Their disappointment has no public outlet, no way to find resonance with others. It becomes a private, potentially dangerous thought, easily silenced by the fear of being labeled disruptive.
So the ultimate control isn't just suppressing dissent, it's actively managing the collective memory and redirecting that emotional energy.
Yes. They provide new sanctioned targets for that energy, the trade war, tech rivals, whoever the designated enemy of the month is. The loyalty of the majority, those wary conformists, gets successfully channeled into the party's current priorities. Forgetting the past becomes a necessary act of loyalty to the present.
Wow, okay, so pulling all these threads together,
right?
From the Pelosi visit, showing how they handled disappointment, to the cognitive dissonance, to these two paths, and the state's management techniques, it paints a pretty clear picture.
Yeah, the synthesis seems to be that despite the initial shock, despite the years of intense rhetoric, the vast majority, that 70–85% on Path A, would ultimately fall back in line.
They become the loyal pawns, or maybe better put, the wary conformists.
Right, because at the end of the day, the analysis suggests their loyalty to the authority, the party itself, is stronger and more fundamental than their loyalty to the goal, the specific mission of unification. Survival and stability within the system trump ideological purity when push comes to shove.
So the big lesson here, from both the real-world example and our thought experiment, is really about the power of authoritarian narrative control.
It's quite stark, isn't it? The ability to cultivate this incredibly intense, emotional, ideological fervor in millions of people, and then potentially redirect it, almost on command, towards a completely different objective. It shows how effectively that group can function as a political tool.
A malleable tool. Their anger over Taiwan doesn't vanish, it just gets pointed at. Semiconductors, maybe. Or Wall Street. Or whoever the party needs them to be angry at next week.
The passion is a resource. The party manages the resource to serve its current strategic needs, whether that's territorial expansion or economic stabilization or technological catch-up.
Which brings us to a pretty provocative final thought for you, our listeners. We've explored how a state can define a core, identity-shaping national mission for decades, and then potentially erase it, replacing it with something entirely new, demanding the same level of fervor.
If that deep-seated passion for unification built up over generations could hypothetically be switched off and redirected towards, say, winning the AI race or dominating green tech.
What does that tell us about the nature of that belief? And maybe more importantly, what new core belief, what new sacred mission might the party be grooming for the next generation? And what's the real human cost when an individual's deepest convictions can be treated as just tools, expendable and replaceable parts in the state's machinery?
It's a heavy question, definitely food for thought about ideology, control, and individual agency that goes way beyond just this one scenario.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today's Sip and Talk. We hope we managed to unpack that complex hypothetical for you.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, also check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel. It's called Mickytolife. Loads of fun stuff there. Memes, liquor tasting, European travel vlogs. Good times.
Always entertaining.
Definitely. We'll get you on the next Sip and Talk.